Hi, my name is Dan Rose. I'm the VP of Business Development at Facebook. I joined the company in July. Since I joined the company, we've gone from 6 million users to now 18 million users. And half of those users return to the site every day. And my responsibility at Facebook is partnerships and extending our business through opportunities with companies like many of the ones that are in the room today.
Good. And if you could just, is this on here? Yep. And if you could just, for the sake of the audience here, just give a very brief description of what Facebook is and how it works.
Sure. Facebook is a social networking utility. We started 3 years ago as a website that was specifically designed for college students, and continue to this day to have a very strong penetration among college students in the United States and increasingly in other English language countries. About a year ago, we opened up the site to high school students, and saw that we were attracting a large number of that demographic as well. And then in September of 2006, we opened up the website to be available to anyone. And what we've noticed since then, and a large part of what has driven the growth that I mentioned earlier, is that we're starting to really see a lot of usage among people in their late 20s and even early 30s. And so the utility aspect of what we do at Facebook, the ability to communicate with people who are in your network offline and do that in a very efficient way online, is something that we're starting to see really has kind of broad application, and so as we kind of look to the future, Facebook is really about providing this horizontal platform that makes it very easy for people to efficiently communicate with their network of friends and people that they interact with on a daily basis.
Okay.
I'm Michael Tenzer. I'm the head of TV business affairs for ICM. ICM is a major talent representation agency. We represent writers, actors, directors, production companies, book authors in the creation of content. I've been with ICM about 7 years, and prior to that I was with NBC, and prior to that I was with a small production company, Brillstein Gray Entertainment. So my experience has always been in the realm of traditional content.
Okay.
My name is Aaron Barnes. I'm Vice President of Sales and Business Development for Friendster Incorporated. Friendster is a leading global social networking property targeted in terms of its reach to, we hit and connect with over 20 million unique visitors per month, and we serve about 6 billion page views monthly. Friendster just announced an global direct partnership with Google, and we're going to continue to further our global footprint. In terms of social networking, we were one of the original social network companies that started the entire trend. We continue to innovate. We're encouraged to be here today because Hollywood is taking seriously not only social networking, but online media, online video, and we're looking forward to participating in that discussion and also talking about future trends and where the real user-generated content, social media, and content are really going to interact going forward.
Okay.
My name is Donald Wong from Sony Pictures Entertainment. I apologize if my voice is maybe a little hoarse. Still recovering from screaming at my daughter's soccer match over the weekend. She won, by the way. Sony Pictures is a diversified $8 billion entertainment company. I'm sure you all know about our Spider-Man franchise. May 4th, by the way, is the big Spider-Man 3. We produce, market, distribute, and acquire motion picture, home entertainment, television, as well as online products. My group specifically was started about 4 years ago to really assist our company as we migrate from the physical analog to the digital virtual world, and really researching, deploying, and supporting various digital media services as we produce, market, content.
I was hoping Donald would have done my intro also, since we're both part of the same company now. Grouper is an internet video site. It's purchased by Sony in August. We've had a pretty meteoric rise. Our I think about 9 months ago we had 100,000 unique visitors to our site. Now we have about 10 million. So it's been I think that's a testament to the kind of features and content we have on our site, where we seek to distribute our content as widely as possible, which is one of the things that we do that interested Sony, kind of our syndication plans. We have a reel that we're hoping to show you, which the content on the reel is less important, but this is a direct influence of Sony. We've packaged up user-generated content in what normally would have been a TV-like reel that you'd see at a trade show.
Okay.
So we're hoping to.
We're going to give it a shot. This was very last minute, so if it works. If not, we'll go right on to the panel. It's only a minute or so, right?
Right. We can come back to it if you.
We can come back. Do you guys need some time to work it through? Okay. We'll come back maybe later on in the show when we have, or later on in this panel. So the major question I have, which I wrote out in the description of this panel, is having lived through the bubble and the burst of the first internet cycle. I have a certain amount of skepticism anytime I hear Hollywood involved in the internet, because a lot of people flocked in, a lot of people expected that eyeballs would lead to monetization just somehow, and it all crashed. So this time Hollywood's actually getting in a lot earlier. How do we know that this isn't just another craze that's going to burst in another year or so? Who wants to take a stab at that?
I'll try to respond. I was at Amazon prior to Facebook and joined Amazon in 1999 and was responsible specifically for many of our partnerships in the entertainment industry. And I think one of the big differences really highlighted by the presentation that we just saw from Paul Yanover at Disney. It's very clear that media companies this time around are looking at how to leverage the internet in a truly strategic way versus bolting it on to something else that they're already doing and trying to tactically tackle the internet. And so I think that just as sort of the second cycle of the internet is a much more rational cycle this time around, as you see that companies are not going public as quickly as they were last time around, and I think investors are actually looking at these opportunities with much more sound business logic. I think too that entertainment companies are doing the same thing, and they're looking at this strategically. I think the acquisition by Sony of Grouper, is another example of that. And these are rational types of deals that are taking place now for rational prices with assets that really fit into the larger strategy, and things I think are going to pay out in a much bigger way this time around than they did last time. I have a lot of optimism for how this works out.
Josh, obviously you have to comment on this one.
Well, I think also, in '99, I sold a company called Spinner to AOL, and it was a feeding frenzy at the time, and we were bought, and then lots of other internet media companies were bought. And this time, I haven't heard of another than YouTube, obviously. I haven't heard of another internet video site that's been purchased, in recent months. So we were the first, YouTube was second, and now there's a lot of quiet. So I think that the buyers are much more cautious, and I think I don't see a frenzy. Selectively, another internet video company may get purchased, but I think it's going to be very selective about it.
Okay, Don, what was in it for you?
I was actually thrilled by so I kind of take that question from a different direction. I was actually thrilled when the acquisition of Grouper occurred, because it really does show that our management team is looking at this very seriously, as opposed to sort of, ignoring it. I think there's a sort of a trend over time that the studios really can't ignore, in that there is a proliferation of various platforms and distribution channels. The web 2.0, 3.0 is really just one sort of manifestation of that. If you believe some of the studies, 5 to 10 years, box office revenue in North America will decline significantly. Depending on whether there are hits out there, that obviously varies from a year-to-year basis. But over time, certainly there is this trend towards people want to watch anytime, anywhere, in whatever sort of format or duration that they would like. The shrinkage of the box office is really just one way of that. Another direction that the business is heading is obviously the shrinking windows between, say, VOD, home entertainment, pay-per-view, TV, and so forth. And that's just something that we have to take very seriously, and I think the Grouper acquisition is just one thing that we're looking at as a prong and a multi-strategy.
Okay. Are we ready to run? We have that? Okay, let's give it a shot. Do we have the ability to dim the lights a little or no?
Time for Little Superstar. I told my mom what happened. And therapy, and she thinks she knows it all, but she doesn't. You're not the button. Perfect.
This is a super cheek injector, you know? It really, bang, gets in there.
It's Ricola.
What the hell? Will.
Can I have a Mentos?
Yep.
Interesting.
So that
And
was-
and deeply coded within that is your monetization model, right?
Well, this channel, I mean, this is a best of Grouper channel. This was a direct influence from Sony. We would thought to have packaged up our content, made it a little sizzly with that music. But I think we now have a channel that we're syndicating and selling ads against, and we have you'll hear about us on a number of sites. That channel on a number of sites.
So ads, that's one way that you're monetizing. Yeah, Don. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to jump in and say a couple things. You asked about Web 1.0 and Web 2.0. Here's a fundamental difference. Everybody in the room knows the reason we're all here. The monetization have proven out from 1.0 to 2.0. When AOL, you brought up AOL buying Time Warner, the reality is in 2000, everything was very banner-based. All the salespeople throughout the country, throughout the world, were crowding into Detroit to try to grab a $1 to $3 to $5 million budget out of a $100 million spend online. The reality is today, diversification has happened. CPC models are proven. There's localized monetization as well. So the little nickels and dimes adding up to hundreds and thousands and millions of dollars have also floated a lot of companies up for 2.0. A lot of serious businesses like Sony obviously are more confident. There's a little bit more risk-taking that's going on now that probably didn't exist previously, that's also going to allow great companies like Grouper to not only get purchased but also deploy against a business model. One of the things later we'll probably talk about is how we monetize on CPMs and what advertisers are seeing in user-generated content versus storyline-created content.
Okay.
I think you're also looking at media companies buying, these networking sites as a function of brand extension. And as Paul was talking about with Disney, all the costs that they've sunk into building their website is you can look at it as a marketing cost as well. And there's a way to monetize that. So it is not just money going out the door; it's a way for money to come in the door as well. And expand the brand that they already have, which is keeping the engine running.
Okay. Michael, anything going on? We know about United Talent Agency and their venture into these waters, and we'll hear about that later. What about ICM? What's your attitude at this point?
You know, as representatives of content creators, as opposed to studios or as opposed to broadcasters or networks, we're very anxious to get our talent. Our talent is very anxious to be the first in the internet space to create that one hit that really makes everybody tune to the internet to find the series. So far, the big hits that have been virally distributed across the internet have been a lot of user-generated content. You know, what I refer to as the water skiing squirrel videos or the sleeping cat videos. And there's yet to really be a series on the internet that's generated that kind of viral distribution. We have clients who really want to be the first people to do that. We have one of our clients is Stan Rogo, who created a show with a friend of his, Brent Friedman, that is called Afterworld, and that is being broadcast on budtv.com exclusively, but it's also been distributed along through YouTube and MySpace as a way of getting exposure to it. But the question becomes whether or not there's going to really be a market out there for 132-minute episodes. Everybody's trying to do this. I don't think there's been the one hit yet that has really, it's really crossed all the boundaries.
I mean, this has been, since the very beginning, the Holy Grail, the star that bubbles up from below. Supposedly, Steven Spielberg's were sprout out of little videos that were posted on the web. Really, from the very beginning, musicians were going to rise into the top 50 on the basis of their showing on places like GarageBand and so forth. Hasn't happened yet. Now, I mean, are the times fundamentally different now? Is it only a matter of time? Is it realistic for talent agencies to recruit in this way?
Well, from our standpoint, it becomes a great way to find new talent. You may not be able to take your talent as easily right now and migrate it to the internet and make money, but it's a great way to synthesize out, filter out, who becomes a hot piece of talent out of their experience, out of their exposure on the internet.
In some ways, it becomes the new reel, right?
It becomes a new testing ground, the new reel, the new, where you used to get kids out of USC Film School who get their break directing music videos. Now you may be able to find a director or creator or writer or an on-screen personality who comes off of, Rocket Boom, or who comes off of Boing Boing, or one of those sites, or Ask a Ninja. Those are people who may end up being the next writer, stars, or directors of television and feature films.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Dan, you were talking about some interesting deals that you've been cutting recently that I think exemplify this in a very direct way. You want to talk about that?
Sure. We announced a relationship last month with Comcast and a production company in Hollywood called Actual Reality Pictures, which is R.J. Cutler's company. And the name of the show that we're creating is called Facebook Diaries. And the concept behind it is, Facebook is fundamentally a technology company. We provide tools to our users. And one of the tools that we provide to our users is the ability to share content from around the internet. And when we launched that capability, we quickly realized that one of the most, the type of content that was shared the most was video content. Not surprising, given all the things that we're talking about today, that our users would be, sharing massive amounts of video content from all of these video sites that we're talking about, including Grouper and YouTube, et cetera. And so we started about ways that we could really offer Facebook users something that would be really unique and differentiated in this new world of user-generated video, and also potentially do something that was interesting around the idea of bringing Hollywood into, and professional production, frankly, into that mix. And so what we did is we created a series of contests that we're going to be launching at the end of this month for Facebook users, and those contests will each around a different theme relating to basically talking about who you are as a person, your beliefs, those kinds of things. Very much organic to the Facebook experience, which is very much about creating profiles, a profile of yourself and communicating that out to your friends. These contests will have similar types of themes, but they'll be encouraging users to upload video content to represent those different themes. And so users will upload their videos to Comcast Zydio, which is a user-generated video site that Comcast has launched. RJ Cutler, who's an Emmy Award-winning television producer, will take the best videos that get uploaded, and he will actually edit them into a 30-minute television episode. So we're going to take the actual raw user-generated videos that get uploaded through this contest, through Facebook and through Zydio, and we're going to create out of that something that is professionally produced and designed to be watched on television. And Comcast, through their video-on-demand platform, will actually put these TV shows onto the television. So we're doing something that's really different and unique. We think it's potentially a new paradigm for taking what has, up to this point, been primarily a web viewing experience of online user-generated video, and marrying that up with professional production capabilities, which ultimately we think are really going to be important for people to want to consume this kind of on a television set in a different type of environment, leaning back and watching in the more traditional way. But at the same time, leveraging the power of social media and the ability for social media to really solicit from the community the kind of content that ultimately could potentially be interesting enough for people to want to watch it on TV.
What's interesting about this, and I don't think you emphasized it in great detail here, is the VOD, the video on demand aspect of it. I mean, that's what I found. What I found compelling about this is, from my vantage point, now I'm expressing an opinion, if you took this video and you put it on primetime television, I think it would be pretty hard to persuade, at least initially, a network to put this kind of stuff up there. But if you do it in a much more focused VOD kind of environment, it becomes much easier to do. The question is whether anyone ends up watching it or not. Actually, what you're talking about is already in place. If you go to on my Time Warner Cable channel, you can find these types of things. You really have to look hard. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think just to respond to that, I think it depends. We're actually in discussions with a number of linear television networks and cable channels about potentially carrying something like this. I mean, when you take a professional producer like RJ Cutler, who's won an Emmy Award and has done really groundbreaking work in sort of the documentary and diary type thematic area, and you marry that up with user-generated content, which increasingly is becoming really compelling content for people to watch. I mean, my kids now, when I get home from work, my 9 and 7-year-old kids immediately pull me over to the computer to watch the YouTube videos that they discovered that day. This stuff is actually becoming, as the masses start to engage in it, the best stuff does surface to the top, and I think it is actually pretty interesting stuff. But it's not stuff that you're going to want to watch on television until you've got some production value added to it. With respect to VOD, I mean, just to finish the thought, I think Comcast really does have a unique position here, and VOD is very early. It's hard to say, how many people are ultimately going to watch VOD and how easy it's going to be to find this stuff on VOD, but very clearly Comcast as a company, and one of the reasons we're partnering with them, they have a unique position here in terms of being able to take this user-generated content and put it on television sets in a way, as you say, that doesn't clog up the primetime spots, which is going to be really important long term.
Okay, Michael?
But to a certain degree, this is no different than America's Funniest Home Videos that have been on,
Exactly what I said yesterday.
which has been on for for a dozen years now already.
Well, I don't think.
Which is not.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I mean, I think that the phenomenon of YouTube and some of these other sites is very much in the vein of America's Home Videos on a computer. Much more video content to consume, obviously, and an opportunity potentially for better content to ultimately surface to the top, because you're talking about more submissions. What we're doing here is fundamentally different, because it's about
what is
thematic.
interesting here, though,
Yeah.
is that up until now, what we're talking about are tools, essentially. Tools for distributing amateur content in a different way. And as Michael was pointing out, if the only difference is that you're uploading it on the internet versus sending it through the mail, then we have, or if it's only a way to recruit talent, then we're not really there in a new medium. We're just there creating new tools. So, I mean, are there any examples yet, or do you have any vision of how it might work for a true marrying of Hollywood expertise and content, where the two are really very, very closely aligned in prime time?
Well, I just don't, you know, the TV to me is the least interesting platform for user-generated content. It's not, and the audience that you're trying to reach with that content is not watching TV. Their TV usage is diminishing, so there's an obsession with, well, we gotta get our UGV on television, but that's from the companies that are in television. It's not from, the users are watching this online, and they're not gonna use, you know, whether they're getting their VOD online, they're not watching their VOD on television. So I think it's nice to have in the mix of the platform support. I think it's important in that mix, but the PC is the better, you know, platform to get it in front of people, not.
How many broadcasters or TV folks do we have in the audience? A few in the back, trying to make themselves fairly low profile. Yeah, I can imagine a number of people grimacing at, you know, well, you got to have a little TV in the mix, simply.
Well, I think if I could just add, you know, I think really what's on the table is what is a compelling. At the end of the day, the Oscars exist for a reason, and I just watched Dreamgirls the other day, and it was an amazing movie. And you know, the way that the story is presented, the line, you know, Hollywood's been around for almost 100 years. One of the things that we've learned at Friendster about Hollywood is Hollywood has a global perspective. Hollywood knows that the marketplace exists globally. It does not just exist in one particular part of the world. And I think that what's happening, kind of to Josh's point, he makes a really good point, and to also what Dan's saying, is we have this interesting moment in time where on the one hand we have traditional vehicles that have big advertiser budgets, we have a business model, there's certain Nielsen ratings, there's expectations of how we're going to fit this into where all the activity is going. But all that activity on YouTube, where our families or our daughters or our friends or ourselves are watching videos on YouTube, those storylines are quick and those video snippets are very brief. And how are you monetizing them? Are you doing wraparound ads? Are you doing interstitial ads? What is the actual monetization that we're showing guys at ICM so he can package up his clients and really get behind this from an overall initiative? I think that's really the next, you know, the next problem that everybody, the opportunity, if you will, for us all to solve. I think that we all agree, well, I don't want to speak for everybody, I think one could argue that it's agreed that there's something here that we have to pursue. It's a matter of how we pursue it, monetize it, that brings everybody together so the stakeholders realize equal value.
Well, how do you make money now?
Well, the way we're doing it on Friendster and the way we've seen, Dan, I'd be curious, or Josh, any of your thoughts, is one of the things that we are doing right now is, in addition to search and what we call cost per click, for those that may or may not be familiar, there's also the standard advertising units that are CPMs, and what they do is they wrap around the overall video content. We are working and talking with other people in terms of that do pre-roll, that do post-roll, that do interstitials. I think the question mark for the video enablers or the providers is, how does that monetize? You know, are you interacting experience? Is someone that's 11, 12, 13 years old, when they're loading up their YouTube video, really going to want to wait and watch a 15-second pre-roll ad for KTEL or something like that, or Kmart? And the reality is they may not be. So even what we're seeing out there in the landscape is people are still doing wraparounds, ads on different sides, and I think on the overall page, if you will, the traditional banners or the text links. And so I think that bridging that gap on monetization and then going into that interstitial, post-roll, pre-roll, of an unknown area right now that everyone's trying to figure out.
Okay, and how about Josh and Dan? How do you guys make money?
Well, same as Aaron. I mean, we are exclusively an advertising-supported business model.
Okay, and Josh?
We're launching interstitial video ads in April, so we'll be one of the first in our category to kind of do that.
And is this the only model that works, essentially free?
Yeah, I think for of content, especially today, while it's still unbranded, I think that model, I mean, the mobile distribution of UGV, I think there is a subscription model there that I think some of us will make money from, but I think for the most part on the internet, it's this content, it lives in an advertising supported world.
I mean, is this, and we'll be getting into this a little bit later with my fireside chat with George Kliavkoff of NBC, should traditional broadcasters who are broadcasting in a free environment, should they just get with the program, give up television, and start focusing on the internet?
No, as you said, it's a tool, and for a company like, for one of the major broadcasters, having a internet site is necessary for branding. The question is going to become, how do you monetize your internet site? Do you think of it as a way to partner up advertisers on your TV shows and give them some added value, so they have a click-through or they have a banner ad or something on your site for The Office or on your site for, for Heroes? Is it a way to market other NBC shows on those sites? Is it a way to bring people, let them see something for free on the internet, which then brings them back to watching the TV show? It is not the end of television. It's one more necessary tool that television needs to, media companies need to have at their disposal. It's a way of building. It's a way of building the community and the content, the community that the content needs. And you need to have the marriage of those two things for Hollywood to take the next step into the future of television in 10 years from now, when you'll be able to see it on any device. You'll be able to see any program on any device. One of the interesting things about Paul's speech with Disney, it's all Disney programming. You don't want to have to buy a General Electric television to watch an NBC show. You don't want to have to buy a Sony television to watch a Sony show. You want to buy a TV and watch Warner Brothers shows and Sony shows and NBC shows on it. You don't need to have, you want to make sure your technology allows you to grab content from anywhere on the web and watch it on any device that you have.
Well, and it makes you realize, always need to realize that increasingly the issue is not what platform it ends up on. It's the ability to access the content from any platform. Right. Yeah.
One thing I do want to add, that from the studio perspective, we talked about monetization and whether it's ad supported and how do we make money. For us, the complement is also, we have an existing core business. We have existing films that we need to own. We have DVDs we need to sell, DVDs that we need to sell and market at Walmart, and different product that we syndicate, whether it's Seinfeld or Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, and so forth. I mean, the Web 2.0 or 3.0 is really just a complement to that. And in preparation for that, I don't know where the market's going to be in 5-10 years. And I think it's very difficult to predict that. But I think there's a lot of stuff that we need to do, whether it's, bore you to tears, but whether it's metadata standards, tagging, things like that, indexing. Unless we get that stuff done, and really, if you look at our catalog, we have 4,000 films in our immense library. Most of our projects are centered around, well, where are we today? Moving forward, can we get the stuff that we're producing today indexed and tagged and located in one area and in different formats that we can repurpose? There's just another 40, 50, 60, 70 years of stuff that we can go back through in our archives, just like we have to do for the DVD market. Whether it's all the added value and things like that people thought were useless. But until DVDs came along, there was no really good way to monetize it. I think it's the same for different markets that are opening up online, whether it's mobile or so forth. There is a lot of preparation that we got to be doing today.
I mean, on the question is one thing. We're, one of the things we're looking to do with the library is we're actually looking to allow our users to mash up old Three Stooges content. So it's kind of some of the ways that we're working together.
And just real quick, in the case of Friendster, we have people that in some cases have over 80,000 fans, and working with partners like Grouper and Sony by putting together a reel or something that might take with that particular subset of people with more than 50 fans, you can see the overall viral nature, which gets us back to the incredible power of user-generated content and how it is a viable medium for everyone's clients in terms of getting out there and then really launching new products and initiatives that may not have taken off otherwise.
Let me just tell you one story, which I think kind of changes the dialogue a little bit from this question of platforms and where content gets distributed, and it goes more to the concept of multitasking and the interweaving of the internet with entertainment. Every week at the exact same time on Facebook, we watch our usage graph do something that repeats itself the exact same way every week, and that is that we see a massive drop-off in usage at exactly a certain time, and then we see 5 mini spikes over the course of an hour, and then we see usage come back up to where it was before and actually exceed that level. And it's the time slot that Grey's Anatomy is on television. So, you know, you have people basically on Facebook who are watching Grey's Anatomy during the commercial breaks. They're going back to Facebook. They're interacting with their friends, maybe talking about the show, maybe not. And then the commercial break ends. They go back to watching it. At the end of the show, they go back onto Facebook and start using it again.
That's fascinating. Let's take a couple questions. I want to stay on. We're back on time, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. We can have our next presentation ready to go, and then do we have? And if we can have the other panel, the next panel, and the moderator kind of move up to the front so that we can keep things moving. We're going to have a networking break after the next panel, so don't despair. You'll have that opportunity. And also, if you look inside your program guide, you'll notice you also have the ability to SMS your questions. So if you have extremely embarrassing questions that you don't want to be identified with, we'll take a small sampling of those. And get used to using your SMS, because we're going to be using that to vote on the venture pitches later today. And please identify yourself.
Hi, Dinesh from Fixate, video visual effects tool for consumers. Josh, I have a question for you. How do you see Juiced playing in the competitive landscape? They're an internet TV play. How do you see them competing against video sharing sites?
I mean, Juiced is squarely focused on premium content, you know, film and television content. And I think that, you know, we may use them as a platform for distribution of our content when the time comes, but I think we're in a different space than they are. It doesn't feel very social. It's really TV is the competition of Juiced, you know, rather than Grouper or even Facebook.
Hi, Ken Brickley with UMail. Josh, can you share with us some of your takeaways from the research you've done around interstitial ads?
Pre-roll is difficult. It's not news to anybody here. Pre-rolls are difficult. And so what we've done to prepare our audience for a more TV-like medium is we now have, when you go to grouper.com and you watch, you know, a video automatically plays, and then a second and third, and as long as you allow it to, we continue to play videos. We have continuous play by default on our website. So I think we're setting up the right environment for people to watch advertising. I think that, you know, we want the ads to be 10 seconds. They're now mostly 15. And I think at 10 seconds, our research says that our audience will tolerate it. The higher the quality, the lower the bar of content, the less they'll tolerate it. So if you have, you know, UGV that you would barely watch, but you're watching this in front of you, and you throw an ad, you'll leave. But if the content is, you know, captures you and engages you, then you'll sit through, you know, a 10 or 15 second ad to get to the next one. But I think it's critical to have just you know, throwing a pre-roll ad in front of a video is not the way we believe that it should be done. It should be, you know, setting up the environment of continuous viewing of content and inserting video ads in that environment.
Do we have the panel, the next panel? Can I see some hands? Are they lined up someplace? That's not good. David? Yeah, over here. Yeah.
Hi, good morning. Glenn Chapman with Agence France Presse. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on the ramifications or the effect of the Viacom lawsuit filed today, or maybe late yesterday, against YouTube for copyright infringement. It's kind of the biggest shot, $1 billion in damages. How do you think that will affect this shift toward the video content into the online medium?
I was like, okay, who wants to take that one? Let me just say this. I think from the studio perspective, we want to work with the different sites out there to make sure that there are filters in place. But if we're able to kind of look from across the table, I think it's difficult for the groupers and the YouTubes, maybe not for the groupers, of the world, because they are in a position possibly to have to put in 14, 20 different types of filters because no one's agreed on any set standards, for video especially. Different companies have approached us, and we love them all, but from a studio perspective, we also don't want to have to fingerprint, you know, our entire library 14 times. It's just economically unfeasible. So at some point, I think good people have to come together to figure out a way, how do you legitimize this business, and how do you allow the monetization? Once we're able to do that, if we're able to fingerprint a, you know, down to a 5-second snippet of videos, that allows a lot of possibilities like ad serving, targeted ads, and so forth. So we actually want to do that from the perspective, we don't want people really stealing our content and uploading it properly. But also, if it is up there and we have business deals in place, how do we further the monetization?
Do we have any more questions?